Took us a while to go live this time. Been traveling a lot. I'm in London right now. And I'll wait for some of you to come back on. This is the second stream that I uploaded to Twitter. The first one didn't work. Hello, hello. Hello. Welcome to my office. Welcome to my studio. It is so grand having you here. Have some tea. I'm actually really having tea for real. I'm in London right now and I'm staying in this like really cute studio. It's actually like this tiny room, but everything in London is tiny because it's like a backwards New York City. It's like New York City, but flipped because everything is, right side, left side. So basically it's like being in New York City. The streets are like New York and there are like a lot of people. It's still happening outside. I went outside, it's 1:30. It's 1:30 in the morning right now, 1:30 a.m. I got in late. My flight got in late, so there's no more books in the background. That was in Jerusalem. I was in Jerusalem this morning. Now I'm in London, and I came to cover Tommy Robinson's trial. It's tomorrow. It's still happening outside. It's still lively. I went outside because I forgot to get a British adapter for my charger, my phone charger. And so I go outside and it's still very lively. This guy on the street was drinking beer on the street. And I was like I go over to him. I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool that you're allowed to drink in the street. And he's like, oh yeah, not all the bars allow it, but this bar was pretty cool. They let me drink outside. And I was like, no, I meant it's pretty cool that it's legal here. And he's like, oh yeah, sure, it's legal here. You can drink outside and have liquor and beer and whatever. So he was, so we got to talking a little bit and he's like, what are you doing here? And I said, I'm here to cover Tommy Robinson's trial tomorrow. It's at the Old Bailey Court in London, and it's going to be big. Tommy Robinson's a very controversial figure here in London. He's running as an independent for the British Parliament. This is all stuff that I learned tonight because I didn't know anything before this. I just knew that Tommy Robinson was arrested and jailed for sharing a video. That's all I knew. But so I was talking to this guy and he's like, he's visiting from Manchester. He was here for work, was drinking beer at midnight. And we're talking about free speech in the UK and he's like, he was a nice guy. He was, classical liberal like most people. And he said, most people in big cities. And he said that he didn't, I asked him, do you feel like there's free speech here? And, do you think that you can get arrested for doing, do you think you can get arrested for saying racist things? He said, well, being racist is not illegal, but, people will look down on you if you say racist things. So I said, no, not is it illegal or not. Can you get arrested? Do people get arrested for being racist? And he's like, yeah, I think so. Yeah. So it's not illegal technically to be racist, but you can get arrested for being racist. You'll get arrested on some other charge, like a minute charge or something like that. They'll find a loophole. And that's something that's happening with the Tommy Robinson trial, it seems. they will mention that they're arresting Tommy Robinson and jailing him for being a racist, for being an Islamophobe, and all this stuff. But they'll use a technical loophole to do it, because it's not illegal to be racist or Islamophobic or homophobic or whatever. But because it's looked down upon very strongly, it's people are going to use it in order to try and get you jailed. So this drunk guy from Manchester, in the middle of the night, drinking outside in the street, he was wearing a suit. He wasn't like he wasn't a hobo or a homeless person. He seemed like, and he was here for work, he seemed like somebody who knew what he was talking about. He said, I just stay away from this stuff. I don't talk about anybody. He's like, I just don't want to get in trouble. And I don't feel like I can say whatever I want anymore. And it's only going to get worse. This guy was not a right-wing guy. This is a random guy I met in the street who was drinking a beer in the middle of the street. He's just like, he was on the curb. But yeah, I don't feel comfortable talking as freely as I used to. And he also said that he doesn't think comedians can do their job effectively anymore, because comedy is all about pushing boundaries and just, like a shock value and saying things that will offend people, but it's in a lighthearted fashion. So you get offended and then you're just like shocked, it's exciting. Comedy, that's what comedy is. So comedy, according to this British guy, comedy is dying. And it was really interesting to have that conversation. I was only outside looking. It was midnight. I was only outside looking for some store that's still open that might have an adapter for my charger, because I don't want to show up to the hearing tomorrow without my phone charged. And I can't even get anywhere in this town, in this city, without a charged phone, because I'm going to get lost, and there are no street signs in London. I haven't seen any street signs so far. Anyway, Tommy Robinson's trial. So Tommy Robinson is an activist, and he's running for as an independent for a member he's running to be a member of the Parliament, of the British Parliament, as an independent. And he's very active and outspoken about immigration, particularly immigration from Middle Eastern countries, Islamic. I don't know how to say it. He speaks a lot about Muslims and stuff like that, and what he calls like Islamic takeover. And the stuff he says is very controversial. He's got a lot of haters, a lot of people who want him dead. He has a very controversial past. In fact, he has a violent past. He's been assaulted. He has assaulted people, apparently, according to his Wikipedia page, which is actually very biased. Like, they call the Wikipedia page about him just calls everybody far right. Yeah, this far right person said this far right person said that. I'm sure if I said or did something, Wikipedia would call it far right. So I'm still taking everything with a grain of salt. But according to Wikipedia, which is all I read, it's not all I read. I read a bunch of news articles, but all these news articles from mainstream news sites were also, very, very biased. I can't really find news about him that doesn't hate this guy. So I'm just going to stick with this guy is very hated and this guy is very controversial. And this guy has been assaulted, and he has assaulted people, and he has been arrested for assaulting people, and he's been drunk while assaulting people. And So, and to the point where other members, other British people who consider themselves far right or might be other British, see, I don't even like to use the word far right because I don't even know what that means. I'm not going to use the word far right ever. Other people who used to be part of his party, his past UKIP. See, I don't know anything. So UKIP, it's the party. It's like a right-wing party, and it's like apparently the Brexit party. And so other members have distanced themselves from Tommy Robinson because he is so controversial. Bruce D says far right is not a drinking game. I agree. Far right is a drinking game. Every, like you take a shot every time someone's called far right. I've been called far right, and I don't think I'm far right, but I guess that's totally relative. But I've seen Jake Tapper being called far right, and I don't think anyone thinks Jake Tapper is far right. So, when I see people like that being called far right, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Far right is just a thing people say whenever you say something they don't like. Oh, you're far right. Ban him, ban her, up with your head, far right. So this guy in the street that I met earlier tonight, by the way, he's like, as I told him, what do you think of Tommy Robinson? What do you think of his trial? And he's like, oh, that guy, I don't want to have anything to do with that guy. He's, everybody hates him here, and everybody here hates him. I was like, but what do you think of Tommy Robinson? He said, he's like, he was, by the way, yeah, anyway, he was kind of drunk. He was really defensive. He was like, I don't want to have anything to do with that guy. I just love everybody, and I just don't want to have anything to do with talk about controversial people. And I said, do you think that it was unfair for him to be jailed the way that he was? And he said, so this guy is like afraid of me, right? A random person in the street. This guy is, he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. Apparently, it's a very, very touchy subject here in the UK, and people know about it. This guy, maybe because he's from Manchester and Tommy Robinson is like a hot thing in Manchester. It's like that's where most of it's happening. So maybe it's just this guy who happened to know about it, but it seems like it's such a controversial topic that people just don't want to even mention it. I don't want to say anything about it. I don't want to be in trouble. I don't want some camera to pop out and say this guy has been, supporting Tommy Robinson or not. So this guy, he's like, this guy, everybody hates him. I don't want to say anything. But then he said, well, I think it's just gonna, he said, well, I just don't think, whatever you think of this guy, it's kind of extreme that people are getting jailed for saying things. And one of you guys, Bruce D said his dog is racist. So Tommy Robinson is not the one with the racist dog. That was Count Dankula, who posted he's like the Scottish guy. Anyway, Count Dankula is the one with the racist dog. And he's like a comedian, so everything he does is satire. So almost everything he does is satire. So he was apparently, this is before he was famous. He was apparently dog sitting his girlfriend's pug. And as a joke, he trains his girlfriend's pug to make a Nazi salute. And every time he says, Sieg Heil, the Nazis, see, I shouldn't have even said that because people can clip that out. Every time he says that, his dog raises its hand. The girlfriend's dog raises its hand and it makes a Nazi salute. and it's actually really funny. Like, it's hilarious. And he posts a video of it on YouTube, and it goes viral. And he goes, "See, Kyle," and the dog makes a Nazi salute. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, like my dog is racist," and it just goes viral because it's so funny. And then he gets arrested for that because apparently British authorities have zero sense of humor. So you can't make a joke that's too funny because you might get arrested because people are too serious to laugh at anything, because apparently free speech isn't real anymore. That's what our Manchester guy was saying, our drunk Manchester guy was saying earlier tonight. He said, we live in free speech countries, but free speech really isn't free speech anymore. That's why I don't want to talk about stuff, because, the name of it is free speech, but it's not really free. So Bruce D, it's not the same person. It's not the same person, but it's the same idea. So you got it. You got that right. What does license mean? Oh, right. You get a license for that joke? You get a license for that joke? Did you get a permit to make that joke to be funny? Oh my God. These people are just so, just all these people have sticks up their asses. Why are these people in charge? Why do people give these people power to be in charge? So Tommy Robinson was jailed for doing a Facebook live stream of a hearing. I don't know if he was he was doing a Facebook live stream of a hearing, or outside of a hearing or inside of a hearing. He did it a few times. So that's why he got in trouble. And he was doing a live stream of a hearing that was about the case of this Muslim guy who raped little girls. So I don't know. Okay. Muslim guy rape Tommy Robinson. Let's see what it comes up. Right. So I guess he did a few of these stories. He did a few of these stories, and he got in trouble for them. So he is like an anti-pedophile activist, is what people are calling him. But his main focus is immigrants, Muslim immigrants. So that seems like his main focus. And I don't know if he says that he's not anti-Muslim. He says it's anti, certain Muslims, I guess, or anti, immigration violence or whatever. I don't know what he says he's anti. But anyway, so he's anti-pedophiles. That's his activism. So he reported on refugee grooming gangs. Yeah, exactly. So basically a lot of these refugee camps in parts of Britain, and we kind of actually have that in the United States too. It's like really places in Britain that are just refugees who've created their entire communities where nobody else can enter. You can't enter if you're British. You can just be part of that group. And the dangerous thing about that is that basically people taking over, people who have never had a chance to enter the country through a legal immigration process, the way that most people join, basically not becoming British, not learning anything about the culture, not having any loyalty to the country, and not going through the same vetting process as other people, so they are not necessarily as committed or invested, taking over a whole section of land and not allowing other people to be part of it, which is basically an invasion. If you think about it, you don't even have to think about it. That's like the definition. You come in, you create your own little empire, and nobody else can come in. That's you're not. Anyways, so basically, he did a hearing. He made a Facebook Live video, and they said that they jailed him. They sentenced him for 3 months, and suspended for 18 months. I don't know exactly how it works, but they said basically they said that they're arresting him because, hateful conduct and anti-Muslim rhetoric and Islamophobia and stuff like that. But you can't commit someone to jail for Islamophobia. It's not illegal to be racist. It's not illegal to be Islamophobic. And it's not illegal to do journalism. It's not illegal to report on things. So, as is the case with many journalists, unfortunately in the West right now, the reason for being arrested, let's say if you're getting arrested, the reason is because you were being racist, or you're being Islamophobic, or you said something that we didn't like, or whatever. But since it's not illegal according to the law, they will use a technical thing. In this case, he shouldn't have been in the court, like he shouldn't have been in the building while he was doing the Facebook live stream. He should have been outside of the building. So they use that technicality. He made a violation of where he's allowed to cover from. So because of that violation was why he was jailed. So it's the reason that they put forward, because they actually mentioned the reason being anti-Muslim hate. So I'm not pulling this out of my ass. They used this as a reason, but for why they're charging him, for why they don't like what he did. He's a hateful, anti-Muslim, whatever. But they're basing it. They're justifying his arrest on him having violated like a court protocol. So, yeah. If you say something that the authorities don't like, sure, it's not illegal to be offensive or say a racist thing or be anti a group of people. Sure, it's not illegal to have opinions and do and cover things and say things. But it is illegal to, it's not illegal to do that. But they can still find a loophole on which to get you in trouble and get you jailed, because they can. And people are like, well, if you don't want to be arrested and you don't want to go to jail for forever, you don't want this and that to happen to you, you don't want the authorities to come after you, then don't commit crimes, don't violate the law. Well, the truth is that we're all violating the law in some way or another. There are a lot of different laws, there are a lot of different amendments to the law, and there are so many different complications that the average person doesn't know. We don't know everything. So we're constantly violating federal law without realizing it, because the laws keep changing, and there are so many little things that you could be charged based on. According to the Mises Institute, which is very credible. It's very likely that the average American commits three federal violations a day. Every day, the average American is violating 3 federal laws on average. So it's kind of crazy if you think about it. And also, it means that it's very easy to charge if you don't like something that someone said or an opinion that someone has, and it's not illegal, or someone is a threat to you, you can still get them in trouble on another small technicality, because that's the way that our law works at this point. And everyone will justify it because there'll be a whole group of people who also don't like what you say. And the people who are willing to get someone jailed for having a bad opinion are not, right now, they're not the people on the right. Unfortunately, they're the people on the left. So even if you have a lot of people who maybe side on the left for a lot of issues, maybe they're socially liberal or whatever, maybe socialist or whatever, a lot of people just are on the side of the right because the left has become so anti any sort of free speech, and people are afraid of them too. So people will submit to them and write about, they will cover for them publicly and support the left publicly because they're just afraid of these people, because these are people in power, and you don't want to get in trouble. You don't want to get on the bad side of these people because they're the ones who will take action. And the interesting thing about that is, while publicly it seems like the sway is on the left, and this guy Tommy Robinson is so hated and this and that, it seems when it comes down to the people who support him and the people who show up at his rallies, he had a rally today in Wigan in Manchester. He had a lot of people show up, and he has very fervent supporters. And so, like if you ask the average person, what do you think of Tommy Robinson? They'll be like, oh no. If you look in the media, they'll be like, oh no, bad person. This, all this bad stuff. And but when it comes down to it, when shit hits the fan, he will have a lot of supporters. And it seems like he's already having a lot of people who are coming out for him, and a lot of people who are willing to put their money where their mouth is. And he has a lot of quiet supporters, basically. So, that's another consequence of being pro-censorship, is that people will outwardly pretend to be on your side because they're afraid of you. And you will think that you have everybody on your side because you're just so controlling and pro-censorship, and people are afraid of you. But in reality, they're not on your side. In reality, this guy seems to have a lot of followers. So, and Tommy Robinson is not loved by the right completely. Maybe he is secretly, but even, the right, everyone's just distancing themselves from him because he's so controversial here in Britain. And people don't want to be arrested for supporting him because he's being arrested. So, Chaotic Narwhal says that's how people got the Hillary, had 99% chance of winning polls. So that's why people are so we're so dumbfounded by Hillary's what's it called when you're like whatever. That's why people were so dumbfounded, for lack of a better term that I can't remember, by Hillary Clinton losing, because they were so convinced that she would win, because the proper thing was always to say that Hillary's going to win. So found dumbed. The proper thing to believe and say in public was that Hillary's going to win. I'm sure that a lot of people who work in the mainstream media, a lot of these people who are like super lefty and come out and like anti-Trump and this and that, secretly don't hate Trump. Secretly don't like censorship. But a lot of people who are in, and I say this as someone who's done a lot of that myself. And the only reason, right now I'm, people are like, oh, why are you being so crazy? Why are you going off the deep end? Why are you, suddenly I'm not suddenly different. I was just, more afraid before to speak because I was working for people and I didn't want to get in trouble. And I cared a lot about like what people think. But now I'm ghostwriting. Now I'm ghostwriting for people. It doesn't matter what I think and what I say. I'm still going to get paid to ghostwrite for people. I won't be associated with them. And so I can just be whatever I want and say whatever I want. So that's, I'm not going off the deep end. I'm just being more honest about things that I always thought. And I think that a lot of these people who work in the mainstream media, they're slaves to whoever they're working for. And they're slaves to the corporate media and the corporate world in general, because no one's going to want to have anything to do with you if you're honest about your opinions. So what I'm saying is, while a lot of people may pretend to be pro Hillary Clinton, for example, and pretend to be pro left-wing ideas and pretend to hate Trump, when they actually vote, when they're actually at the polls, when nobody knows, they're going to vote for the populist right. And it's not just in the United States that it's happening all over the world. This is happening everywhere that you can think of. There is a populist right-wing revolution happening, a populist nationalist revolution everywhere. I was just in Israel. In Israel, people are celebrating a national. Israel has a very similar everywhere in the world. There is this the right, the left. There's this clashing. We think of it as like an American issue. It's everywhere. It's like an everywhere issue. The whole Western world, basically, and the whole Western world is having this issue. Brazil just elected their recently elected their right-wing leader. The Hungarian leader, Viktor Orban, or whatever his name is, he just met with Trump, and they got along really well. And a lot of populist right-wing figures here in Britain are very popular, even though if you meet someone in the street and you ask them, what do you think? They'll be like, oh, no, I don't have anything to do with that. But if you talk to them a little more, they actually really support these people, because there is a right-wing nationalist revolution happening all over the world. And it's not scary. It's not like, oh no, these people are taking over. It's a symptom of a problem that has been happening in the Western world in the past few decades. So the word wasn't dumbfounded. The word was like side slipped. They were black. I don't remember what the word is. English is not my first language, guys. I always see people be like, oh, you don't speak English, you're so dumb. English is not my first language. So when people say that, they're dumb because they probably only speak English. My first language was Farsi. My first language that I ever knew was Farsi. And by the way, this is not you guys. You guys are great. Anyone who's viewing this right now is like perfect. Like, I love you guys, because the only people who are viewing this right now are the cool people. But I mean, like on Twitter and stuff, like English is not my first language. And I definitely had like an accent even when I was younger. So, yeah. So it took a while and I still feel like I stumble across a lot of stuff. How did I get into ghostwriting? Someone asked. It was not expected. I started doing it because, I don't know, people were asking, and multiple people were asking, and I had friends who were doing it, friends who had gotten in trouble for writing, in media stuff, who work in media, and they got in trouble a lot. And ghostwriting is a perfect option if you're a controversial writer, or I don't think I'm controversial, but if you're someone who feels like caged from writing or saying how you feel, because people will not want to have any association with you, because if you say anything that the public doesn't like, or the mainstream media, doesn't like, so ghostwriting kind of gives you freedom to say whatever you want, because as a ghostwriter, it doesn't matter what you think. It's not going to affect the author unless your name is on it, is like, in the book or whatever. But blindsided, Iron Man, Juan, blindsided. That was the word. I don't know why I forgot it. The word was blindsided. The people who thought that Hillary Clinton was going to win were blindsided because they didn't want to know about the people who wanted her to lose. They didn't want to know about the people who wanted Trump to win. Thank you. Blindsided was the word. Okay, so anyway, tomorrow's the trial of Tommy Robinson, who was arrested, jailed, and they're saying basically, so this happened like in 2017, and then last year they like committed him to jail, but then they said they put in his court records that he was sentenced to jail. When he wasn't sentenced to jail, he was like committed to jail. So I don't really know the difference, but then in November, they said we have to do a redo of the trial because we did it wrong. Like, we said basically we wrote it down wrong in the court record. So tomorrow they're basically going to have a trial based on the new way of calling it, which was committing and not sentence. So he was committed to 3 months of jail time, suspended by 18 months. So yes, we are expecting, so this is going to be at the Old Bailey Court in London tomorrow, Tuesday, so it's actually today, technically, according to the time that it is here in London, which is 2:11 a.m. in the morning. So in exactly 12 hours is going to be the trial. There's going to be a bunch of protests outside. We're expecting that. And then there's going to be the trial. So I'm definitely going to keep you guys updated. I'm going to keep you updated on everything I know and learn and find out. Be on my Twitter. I couldn't do this on Periscope, by the way, because I couldn't, like, the network here, until I get back to the United States, I'm not going to be able to do like multiple streaming. So just YouTube, but stay on my Twitter, Periscope. I'm going to do a lot of Periscope and just updating. Stay on my Twitter, subscribe to my YouTube, like this video, check out my description below, and we're gonna yeah, it's gonna go on for a few days. I'm gonna be here for a few days, and tomorrow is gonna be the trial. So, anyways, I only have citizenship of the United States, and my loyalty, by the way, is the United States. Even though I do love to be around a lot of countries, and I have family in Israel, so I love talking about Israel. And I studied in Israel for a year, and I go back a lot. So yes, yes. All right. So, but yeah, only U.S. citizenship, and okay. See you guys tomorrow. Really, really looking forward to doing this, and we'll see how the trial ends up. Take care.